North Korea says it is developing nuclear weapons to protect against what it calls U.S. hostility.
The United States and South Korea are warning that Pyongyang is preparing for a nuclear test. If it does happen, there are set to be consequences.
U.S. officials have confirmed that overnight North Korea launched an intercontinental ballistic missile,
ICBM,
capable of reaching Alaska.
I would say they are currently the most concerning, imminent threat.
They do have the ability to set Seoul on fire.
It's the spring of 2025 and North Korea has just test-fired its newest intercontinental ballistic missile. In Washington, President Trump delivers a live address on every major network. His voice is calm, but there's an unmistakable tension beneath every word.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea.
Meanwhile, half a world away, Kim Jong Un stands in front of a roaring crowd on Pyongyang's main boulevard, showcasing a weapon that could reach the United States. You could almost feel the global temperature rising. But how did we end up here? And how would a devastating war on the Korean Peninsula drag the entire world into chaos? Today we'll peer into a shocking AI-driven hypothetical timeline of a conflict that begins in 2025 and stretches into the next decade. Along the way, we'll witness horrifying military engagements, nuclear threats, and the struggle of everyday citizens trying to survive. How could America's relationship with North Korea be broken? Could Kim Jong Un's new alliance with Russia ignite a larger global firestorm? And would Seoul's high-tech defenses stand firm or crumble against a surprise strike? Buckle up, because this story will move fast, like a spy flick unfolding in real time. And a friendly reminder, if you haven't seen any of our other AI Predicts episodes yet, this simulation was created using large language models like ChatGPT and Grok. They aren't always reliable, and conflicts like these can be unpredictable, so please take this all with a grain of salt. With that clarification in place, we'd love to hear how you think a scenario like this would unfold in the comments below. Before we dive deeper into this chilling simulation of a war with North Korea, let's talk about something a little too real. Your personal information being exposed online for anyone to buy. Yeah, it's creepy. That's why I'm glad today's episode is sponsored by Delete Me, a service I've been using myself to clean up my digital footprint. And trust me, the results are eye-opening. They found my name, address, phone number, stuff I had no clue was out there, and started scrubbing it from data broker sites. Here's what's going on. Data brokers are out there collecting your personal info, including where you live, how to contact you, even details about your family, and selling it. That opens the door to identity theft, spam, phishing, and even stalkers. Yeah, it's not pretty. Delete Me finds that data and removes it from hundreds of these sketchy sites. You'll get a full privacy report within a week. And they keep monitoring and removing your info all year long. It's totally hands-off, and honestly, it's a big relief knowing they've got my back. If you care about privacy like I do, it's a no-brainer. There's a reason I'm broadcasting from an undisclosed location. You can try it for yourself and get 20% off by heading to joindeleteme.com/howtosurvive and using the code HOWTOSURVIVE at checkout. Scan the QR code, lock down your privacy, and get some peace of mind. Now, back to the show. Tensions between Washington and Pyongyang have simmered for decades.
Its nuclear and ballistic missile programs pose a grave threat to peace and security of Asia and to the world.
Technically, North Korea and South Korea are still at war. A 1953 armistice ended the fighting but never brought a formal peace treaty to the table. Over the past few years, the North Korean regime has grown bolder, conducting missile tests so close to Japan that entire towns scrambled for shelter. Then came the news reports that North Korea had deployed thousands of troops to fight alongside Russia in Ukraine.
The Russian President Vladimir Putin has thanked the North Korean leader Kim Jong Un for providing troops,
trading manpower and artillery support for advanced weapons technology. This is where our simulation begins. How quickly will this situation escalate? Let's find out. By early 2025, Kim Jong Un boasts he's gained crucial combat experience for his forces. He claims these hardened units, trained on real battlefields overseas, are now more than ready to square off against the imperialist foes in Seoul and Washington. Publicly, Pyongyang denies any official alliance with Moscow, but rumors swirl about a secret defense treaty that might force Russian intervention if North Korea feels threatened. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump announces his intention to finally bring Pyongyang to the table. The White House floats the idea of a fresh summit, hoping to limit North Korea's nuclear expansions. Yet behind the scenes, the Pentagon readies a massive joint military drill with South Korea. Codenamed Iron Sentinel, the exercise will involve US Navy carriers, long-range bombers, and cutting-edge drone technology. Kim Jong Un fires back with threats, calling Iron Sentinel a dress rehearsal for an invasion. Diplomats around the world brace for the worst. Late May, North Korea fires a Hwasong-18 missile that plummets into the Pacific near Hawaii, uncomfortably close. Washington issues a stern warning, and stock markets around the globe dip. In Japan, local authorities test their alert systems, broadcasting shrill sirens that send people ducking under desks. Nobody's sure if the next siren will signal a real incoming warhead. Tensions spike even higher when a US Navy submarine, the USS Alexandria, docks in the South Korean port of Busan for joint drills. Pyongyang labels this a grave provocation, claiming the US is practically parking nuclear weapons right at its doorstep. A day later, North Korea stages an immense artillery display near the demilitarized zone. Satellite images show hundreds of rocket launchers and tanks lined up like teeth of a massive war machine. That's like seeing a military parade, except the weapons here can flatten a city block in a heartbeat. As if the atmosphere wasn't fraught enough, North Korean hackers ramp up cyber attacks on major South Korean banks, causing brief but worrying shutdowns. People rush to withdraw cash, uncertain if digital networks will hold. President Trump sends out a midnight tweet. Kim better back off, or the US response will be like nothing he's ever seen. The post goes viral, with internet memes turning the standoff into trending content. But behind the jokes, fear grips millions in Seoul and Tokyo. Civilians begin stocking up on canned food and water. This standoff feels different, more volatile, more personal. As October arrives, everyone wonders, is war about to break out, or will this remain a game of nuclear poker? The answer comes abruptly, in the waters off the Korean Peninsula. A US destroyer, the USS Roosevelt, is struck by a short-range ballistic missile. It happens at dawn. Explosions rip through the hull, and frantic mayday signals crackle across every Allied frequency. Dozens of American sailors lose their lives. North Korean state media declares the strike a warning shot against what it calls US military provocations. I'd say a direct attack on a US warship is a lot more than just intimidation. Within hours, global leaders are pissed and ready to step in. NATO calls it an act of aggression. Russia, oddly quiet, merely states that North Korea has the right to defend itself. China urges restraint, worried that any escalation could spill across its borders. But Washington, it is furious. The White House press briefing is electric, with officials saying all options are on the table. President Trump addresses the nation from the Oval Office, promising swift retaliation. The American public, shocked and outraged, demands action. Has the line been crossed beyond all hope of diplomacy? In less than 24 hours, the price of crude oil skyrockets. Stock markets from New York to Tokyo nosedive on fears that a war could disrupt major shipping routes. People start panic buying essentials. In Seoul, every convenience store is stripped of bottled water, ramen, and batteries. Emergency phone lines are flooded with anxious callers wanting evacuation guidance. South Korea activates its highest alert level. Civilians dig out old gas masks. Military conscription offices see a surge of volunteers, motivated either by patriotism or a sense that war is inevitable. Japan deploys its Aegis-equipped warships along likely missile flight paths, determined to intercept any projectile heading for its territory. The entire region feels like a powder keg. At the same time, North Korea's state-run media hammers home a narrative of self-defense. Kim Jong Un appears in uniform, saluting lines of ballistic missile units. The message? we are ready. Meanwhile, Trump sends Vice President J.D. Vance to Seoul to reassure the South Korean government of unwavering American backing. Cameras capture him hugging families of U.S. personnel stationed at Camp Humphreys, the largest U.S. military installation overseas. That footage plays on repeat, fueling a strange mix of dread and resolve. The world holds its breath. All eyes are on North Korea. Will it make the next move? Or will the Seoul-Washington alliance strike first? And if you're gripped by this scenario and want more, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's jump back in. December nights in Korea can be brutally cold. Under the cover of darkness, North Korea launches a massive artillery barrage across the demilitarized zone. Thousands of shells whistle overhead. Within minutes, parts of Seoul go dark. Although South Korean and US forces have prepared for such an event like this for years, the sheer volume of fire is overwhelming. Sirens howl, cell phone alerts scream for people to find shelter. Streets become jammed with vehicles, families huddling under overpasses, not sure where to run. An X live stream from downtown Seoul captures the first missile hit. It looks like a scene straight out of a post-apocalyptic movie. South Korean F-35s scramble in retaliation, striking the artillery positions as best they can. But Pyongyang's guns are positioned in fortified tunnels, popping out only to fire. Equally frightening are the ballistic missiles targeting US bases. Some get intercepted by Patriot missiles. Others slip through, flattening entire sections of Camp Humphreys. Death tolls climb at a pace unimaginable in modern history. President Trump authorizes immediate precision airstrikes on critical North Korean facilities. Stealth bombers roar in from Guam, dropping bunker-busting bombs on suspected missile hubs. The demilitarized zone, once a static relic of the Cold War, morphs into a blazing battlefield. Civilians living near the border have no time to flee. Military experts warn this could escalate to nuclear use if North Korea feels threatened any further. In a particularly harrowing development, Pyongyang claims it might employ tactical nukes if the US doesn't back off. That's enough for the United Nations to call an emergency session. Tempers flare, but no one can force an immediate ceasefire. It's as if every diplomatic channel is overshadowed by the deafening roar of artillery and the sizzling glare of missile launches. January 2026. Allied troops, predominantly American and South Korean, press ahead to neutralize North Korean artillery. Their progress is measured in feet, not miles, because everything is booby-trapped. Then, the unthinkable happens. A small nuclear device is detonated near the front lines. Intelligence suggests it's a low-yield weapon, something designed to obliterate troop formations without devastating the entire region. Still, it's nuclear. The mushroom cloud is unmistakable. Thousands of soldiers are wiped out in a fiery instant. When the footage hits the news stations, you could almost feel the collective heartbeat of the world weaken. A nuke on the Korean Peninsula? This was the apocalypse scenario everyone hoped would never come. Worldwide, shockwaves hit. Americans watch horrifying images on their smartphones, shaking their heads in disbelief. Seoul descends into panic. The possibility of more nuclear blasts drives families to attempt frantic evacuations southward. Long lines form at ports and airports. Social media floods with pleas for help. Meanwhile, the global condemnation of Pyongyang is absolute, but condemnation can't stop missiles. Washington considers a nuclear response, but ultimately opts for a concentrated conventional onslaught. B-2 stealth bombers unleash near non-stop bombing runs, targeting Kim Jong Un's bunkers, but his whereabouts are a mystery. In a desperate maneuver, North Korea attempts to launch an intercontinental ballistic missile toward the US mainland, aimed near California. Either it malfunctions, or it's intercepted by the ground-based mid-course defense system in Alaska. The missile disintegrates over the Pacific. However, that near miss sends a chill through every American city. Public fallout shelters and private bunker facilities alike report long lines as families sign up for space. Potassium iodide tablets vanish from drugstore shelves. People wonder, what if the next one gets through? Meanwhile, Russian authorities are sweating like a snowman in a sauna. After all, they've had a hand in unleashing this madness. By mid-2026, the Korean War 2.0 begins winding down. Enormous casualties on all sides force a ceasefire. North Korea's leadership structure collapses after intense bombing campaigns. Reports circulate that Kim Jong Un either died in a bunker strike or was deposed. Some reports suggest he sought refuge in Russia. Others whisper Iran. No official statement confirms his fate. The battered North Korean military, lacking supplies and hammered by air raids, yields to a temporary truce. Surviving generals agree to a surrender that effectively ends the fighting. That doesn't mean the chaos disappears overnight. Seoul is in ruins. Residential towers, once lit by neon, stand hollowed out from artillery hits. Pyongyang, hammered by cruise missiles, is a bleak silhouette of twisted steel and rubble. Millions of displaced civilians crowd makeshift camps. Relief organizations head to the region, but they're overwhelmed by the scale of destruction. Think Mad Max meets The Walking Dead, except this is real life. Humanitarian corridors open to deliver food, medical aid, and radiation care. Portions of the demilitarized zone and some regions north of it are dangerously radioactive from tactical nuke blasts. Cleanup and decontamination might take decades. Meanwhile, families remain separated, uncertain whether loved ones survived. The United States shoulders monumental costs in reconstruction, veterans care, and a battered economy. War fatigue hits home, with citizens questioning whether this conflict was avoidable. Internationally, eyes turn to Russia and China, since both had ties to North Korea. Kremlin officials deny direct involvement, but intelligence suggests they quietly funneled advanced artillery to Pyongyang. China, after issuing half-hearted calls for restraint, now engages in massive humanitarian outreach to avoid a total North Korean collapse on its border. Amid the rubble, one unexpected storyline emerges: the possibility of Korean reunification. With North Korea's leadership vacuumed, South Korea's government attempts to bring it under a unified administration, but the challenges are monstrous. Infrastructure is annihilated, radiation zones linger, and millions of traumatized people struggle to accept any authority. Economists estimate it could take over $1 trillion and at least a generation to heal the scars. If a conflict like this ever erupts, here's what you need to know to stay alive. First up, stock an emergency kit. That means water, canned goods, flashlights, batteries, and a stash of any vital meds. Trust me, nobody wants to be the person standing in the street when sirens go off, scrambling for supplies that aren't there. Next up, seal up your living space if things go nuclear or chemical. Literally. Duct tape plus plastic sheets over windows and doors can buy precious time. It's not pretty, but it beats inhaling toxic fumes. Also, be ready for tech blackouts. Cell towers may bite the dust, so a battery-powered or hand-crank radio is your best friend. It sounds old school, but without electricity, your phone's just a paperweight. Let's talk first aid. If roads are bombed out and ambulances can't reach you, knowing how to patch up a wound or stop bleeding is huge. Even a basic crash course can save lives. Yours, your family's, or your neighbors. Speaking of neighbors, team up. Sharing resources and keeping tabs on each other can mean the difference between orderly survival and total madness. Some of the safest pockets during the crisis are communities that stick together. Finally, don't underestimate the power of mental resilience. Stay close to loved ones and practice mindfulness. You might cope by joking that you're living in a Call of Duty expansion pack. Trust me, a little humor goes a long way in situations like these. Why should you care about a conflict in Korea? Because one spark, like a missile striking a US warship, could set off global chaos. North Korea was forged by the brutal Korean War in 1950, which killed millions and never officially ended, locking the region in constant tension. Now, with around 50 nuclear warheads, over 1 million troops, cyber warriors like the Lazarus Group, and missiles that could hit US cities, North Korea's threat reaches far beyond the demilitarized zone. A war in the Korean Peninsula may sound like a doomsday scenario, but there's an even darker threat. An electromagnetic pulse strike, or EMP, capable of knocking out modern technology in a single blow, catapulting us back to a pre-electric age. In our next episode, we'll explore this chilling possibility. Think things are bad now? Imagine every screen going dark and every engine stalling. Rumor has it, Pyongyang's already testing EMPs. Until then, stay vigilant, stay prepared, and keep watching How to Survive. Big thanks to Delete Me for sponsoring this episode. If you want to take control of your personal data, hit the link in the description and grab 20% off.